Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Jess Marshall podcast. This week, we're going to talk about nutrition, fitness, rehab, the whole nine yards with Brooke and Luq Mosley. They're awesome fitness and nutrition entrepreneurs here based in Dallas. Looking forward to the podcast. Hope you enjoy it. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Jess Marshall podcast. Wow. Mark that swipe. Bring it.
So I've been training 7 years and then added massage to what I do. So I went back to school to, Parker University?
Yeah.
And that's a school of chiropractic. But got my massage degree and then basically just kind of started that from there.
You should probably DM Deshaun Watson and let him know what to and not to do when he's getting a massage.
And then also the massage therapist also should obviously know what to do.
Boundaries, they're important.
Yes, indeed.
So are expectations. Did you go to high school and college up in Kansas?
Yeah, I went to Kansas State University.
Yeah, Wildcats, let's go. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Bill Snyder University.
Yes,
exactly. He definitely like the man of Kansas.
No doubt. Yeah.
Keep trying to get him to come back.
Yeah, no shit, right? Yeah. He's like Tom Osborne to the Nebraska people.
Yeah,
He's too old.
They're like, we'll wheel you out there if you can. I always liked when he would wear a windbreaker and then he would tuck it into his slacks with a belt. Great look. Yes, very old school. What did you study in college?
Nutrition and kinesiology.
Okay, awesome.
I also was fortunate enough to be on the track team, so I was a high jumper.
Oh, right on.
That was cool. It was a fun part of my life, but I'm actually kind of happy to not compete anymore. It was so stressful, and now it's nice to just work out for myself and just have fun with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we were talking before we kicked off, but you guys met working out, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
The gym that we both worked at, I still work there. We both met there. And it was kind of funny how we kind of kicked it off, but it was kind of, we both obviously like friendly play and just kind of making sure that we are still like just challenging each other in different ways.
That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you guys are obviously, you share common interests.
Absolutely.
Which is what brought you together. So
Luke got me into a style of training, and then I was kind of like, that's interesting.
Was that the functional stuff?
Yeah, so it's called FRC, functional range conditioning. So it's basically mobility training. What it does is it finds people's limitations, and you kind of break it down from there. So you have either different movement patterns that you may want to get to, and you can try to either break them down by simply just either simply getting to the ground, right, and then either going off to the side with the one leg, all right, and just kind of breaking the movement down to its functional patterns, and just kind of just understanding the body at the joint level, not just the musculature level.
And did you get dialed in on that because of the skateboarding career? Just because you're using every part of your body to try to not die when you're doing tricks and stuff?
That was definitely part of it, yes. Yeah. But I was very lucky that I had a very loving mom that she kind of grew me up. I was always in yoga studios and gyms growing up. So I was always playing with different stuff. It led me to skateboarding because of my football career ended. So at the tail end of my high school career, I had the option to either continue playing football or go skateboard. And because I was catching so many concussions, concussion protocol wasn't as it was today. So I had to go ahead and make the decision for myself to just go ahead and skateboard. So 2-3 years later, I tore my ACL skateboarding, and that's what led me ultimately to training.
We share some big commonality there with the concussions.
Really?
'Cause I'm a big rugby guy, didn't really realize a couple years ago I was just struggling. And found the Amen Clinic. They have a place here now,
really?
But went up to Chicago for several days, and they do tests on you, and they're determining whether or not you most likely have CTE, because they don't know that till they saw your head in half when you're dead.
That's a pretty extensive test they do.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Yeah. And it's crazy to see the results too. It's concerning.
Yeah.
Just because we don't realize how, football's the most popular game on the planet.
Yep.
But guys who play soccer get concussions. Divers get concussions.
But
people
have
get
you
them all the
seen
time.
how they treat them on the field now? Like especially soccer. So like if they get like a head collision, then they completely stop the game. right? So in football, like that's part of the game.
It is now.
And so that even Tom Brady will say that they're changing the game to where they're more so favoring the defense, right? Or I'm sorry, the offense. Because what's happening here is they're trying to protect those individuals, obviously, because they don't want those CT concussions, type injuries to continue to happen later down the road. So they're trying to change it a little bit too fast. So then that way the players at least are not able to keep up with the changes. And so you're seeing it on TV, but it's happening so fast that you can't make that decision to go, oh, I just need to go either down or a little bit higher. Like you're going to go run through that person wherever they lay. Right. And so for us as individuals, I mean, yeah, we want to see those collisions and those bangs because that's what, as people who watch football, we like to see that. Right. But for the players and things like that, then we have to consider about how we're keeping them healthy long term. And so for that to happen, the game slightly has to change. But for them to change it so fast, I don't think that they should do that.
Yeah, and it's I played a bunch of football too. Then I found rugby, and it just took my breath away. It was so awesome, so fun. And if they would just remove all the armor in American football,
I've heard
they'd make it way safer.
Yeah.
Is that what you like about rugby versus football? Or
Actually,
what would you say
no,
you like?
because you're still. Usually, if you look at my Instagram stories on Thursdays, because my Thursdays are packed, I'm always putting some huge rugby hit up there.
Okay.
And that, I mean, if I could still play, I would still, and I'd do it all over again probably. No, what I liked more about rugby than football, way more, is in football there's the head coach, right? And we all kneel down around the head coach and he talks down to you and he grabs your face mask. Rugby's way more collaborative. There's a head coach or a director of rugby and they might say, hey, this team we're going to play this weekend, they're faster than us. So we're going to play a more compact game. But from when we normally play Saturdays in rugby, amateur and pro. Usually from Wednesday on, the captain is running the show. And if the players on successful teams say, I don't think we're going to fucking do what the coach said. I think we want to play this game this way. That's what you do. And there's no stopping every 30 seconds. It just flows. So there's way more artistry and independence. Yeah. That's what I like.
It's a little bit more like the real world, honestly.
It is.
You gotta collaborate with your team.
And I'm not a big scream in my face and you're gonna get an awesome response from me type of guy. And you guys run your own stuff, right? You're in business for yourselves. You obviously have an independent streak to you, and football takes a lot of that away.
Absolutely.
It's run this play. And if you divert in any way, you're getting screamed at.
Exactly.
I'm going to pull your scholarship. Yeah, well, you do that.
I like to play a me sport. That's another reason why I got away from playing football. I was just tired of getting yelled at for things that I wasn't doing.
Sure.
Right. So in school, I was a pretty good student. And then in sports, I was a good athlete. So I played close to those lines, and then whenever anybody fell outside of those lines, I was like, why am I getting punished for this? So I mean, that's another reason what kind of drove me to go into skateboarding. I was like, I don't have to listen to a coach.
Sure.
This is just me. I have to abide by my sponsors maybe, but that's very loose. Extremely loose.
I got into skateboarding watching the Olympics this last time around.
Man, that was so
13-year-old Brazilian girl. Wow, it's crazy.
It's really
what
cool.
they're doing is just nuts, man.
I saw her when I want to say she was like 4 or 5, like heel flipping down 6 sets and stuff like that, and like a little like fairy tutu or something like that, like years ago. And then obviously 8 years later, she was in the Olympics. It's crazy, man.
That is crazy. When you were in high school, was it all track and field, or were you playing volleyball, basketball, stuff like that?
I did cross country, basketball, and track, but like you're talking about team sports, that just was not my thing. I just did it because I was at a small school, and you kind of like, you're good at this, you're gonna do it.
Sure.
But if
you're kind of tall, you get slotted into every sport too.
You're 5'9", you should just do things.
Yeah, right.
No, track I did that since I was like 5 years old, running the fun runs, and my parents were able to coach me all the way through, and then when I went to college, my coach was actually a big high jump coach. Cliff Rivelto at K-State, and he's coached a lot of Olympians. So it was actually a lot of fun to learn from him.
Yeah.
You know, I was not at that level, obviously, but I have been able to take away a lot of the stuff that I learned from him, just like how to coach in a calm, collected manner. You don't have to scream at everyone. You can just kind of get your point across, and kind of like taught me about the science behind how he like designed his programs too. So a lot of that was like really interesting for me to take away.
Was the playing at the college level everything that you expected it would be, or was it like you said, it was real stressful in the end?
You know, it was stressful for me for different reasons than other people would have been stressed. Like, I just think a lot of female athletes put a lot of pressure on themselves to be really lean. And so they kind of tragically put their career in jeopardy because we like try to eat less or work out more, like not do what the coach says with the workout plan, but try to do your own thing on top of it. And I felt like that was kind of my downfall, was just like not really listening as well as I should have and only doing what coach asked me, but also trying to do my own thing and trying to fix my diet differently. But a lot of females kind of fall into that trap. They don't really mean to, but since we're all so competitive, you kind of accidentally compete a little too hard with your teammates on everything.
Sure. On the nutrition side of it, since you have a degree in that, as you started to learn more about nutrition, at least from books in college, did you learn things that in high school you're like, hey, you got to make weight and you do whatever if you got to skip a few meals, you do, which obviously if you're trying to perform and you're not feeding yourself, your brain can't operate, your body's working from a deficit. When you first start going to college, you're just trying to compete and you're trying to get as far as. Did you start learning more though and get kind of granular about nutrition, but you were still maybe sort of fighting I got to burn the candle at both ends type thing?
Yeah, you know, I actually think what made me so obsessed was majoring in it. And I noticed some other girls that were majoring in it also fell into that trap. Like, you get obsessed with it. Like, oh, I get obsessed with the calorie count every day. Or like
weighing your food and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you weigh yourself every day. You fall into that trap. So I don't really ever weigh myself now. It took me a long time to get out of that. But yeah, I guess that was my stress with competing. It's just like you're around all these other girls that are really good at what you do also, so you just always try to find a way to be better. But all the things I know now, I wish I would have known when I was like 20 years old, but you can't really go back. You just can only get smarter and learn from your experiences. But that's why I really like the style of how we train, or how I train now, is that I keep it really diverse. Like, I do Muay Thai, kickboxing 2 days a week, and then I do like Viper Pro workouts 3-4 times, and then I also do the Ken stretch and FRC, and it's so much more fun to just like diversify all the workouts, and I'm constantly looking forward to it. And it's all so different that I'm never really focusing on like my diet, I ate too much or whatever. It's just, it feels a little bit more like simplified, I guess. I don't stress about it.
Yeah. What is the main trap that a lot of people fall into when it comes to their nutrition that you guys both see? Is it, oh, I just need to cut my calories, or is it, hey, a calorie, or is it these fad diets like carnivore, keto, things like what do you guys? You're down there where the rubber meets the road with people who, obviously, if they're coming to you guys, they want to improve their health.
Absolutely.
But there's so much information, especially with social media in the palm of your hand, that you don't know who to believe. What do you got? What do you see a lot or hear a lot?
The thing is, we fight a lot with the fad diets. The fad diets come 1 in a million, because there's like, you have all these different ones.
Right up on that mic. I want them to hear you.
You have all these different diets that basically are all over the place.
Yeah.
And so they're not really like honed in on the individual, right? So they may work for one individual, it's not going to work for the next, right? So we found that, at least for us, and all of our clients, that works best is going to be a whole nutritious diet, right? So figuring out what people should and should not have based on their genetic biome. Right, so usually we'll go send people or our clients to go get a food sensitivity test. That food sensitivity test will be sent off to the lab, and we'll have basically a list.
That's how we were connected, right? Because Blake was talking about He works with trainers who are like, hey, if you want to get serious about this, you got to go talk to Blake first and get your levels and understand where you're at. Because in 2 months, I don't want to hear the bitching and moaning about how there's no results if we were starting and we didn't even know where we were. How long have you guys been taking that really thorough approach with people?
I guess I've been working with Blake about 1.5 years now.
Yeah.
And it's something about the panel of blood samples that you give for that particular sensitivity test, not just like a prick of blood. I think that does make a difference.
Absolutely, because they're taking a larger sample, so they're figuring out a little bit more about you specifically, right? So what's happening there is, like, obviously as we age, things change. Our surroundings change us also, right? Our genetics are also play a huge part about that. Now, it also plays a part about that how well you took care of your body up until you took that test, right? So me personally, I was having a lot of kombucha in my diet at the time. So there was a specific it was a gut bacteria, it was a candida that was on my list, and that was the only thing that I had in the red. So usually you'll have things in the red, things just stay away from. Things are in the yellow, things you can have moderately every 3 to 4 days, and then things that are in the green, then you can have pretty much however you want to, right? Everything on that yellow list, I was having pretty much every other day or every day. Like simple things like turmeric, black beans, mushrooms, things that were in my diets consistently enough to just cause enough issues and enough, I would say, inflammation inside of my gut that I wasn't aware about. And so at the time, it was definitely mind-blowing seeing all those different lists on those lists of foods that I just couldn't have, that I was just having all the time and enjoying. And
thinking that you were eating healthy and
absolutely
this is good for me.
Yes. Yeah. And so once I did that and I took away from those foods, and then I literally became shredded. It was insane because the amount of body fat that I lost, and because of the amount of exercise that I already was doing, my nutrition part just kind of fed into that even more. And so the changes that both of us saw within a short amount of time were crazy. So that was just us. So then now we started kind of, hey, clients, like people that were willing to get that information and go have the test done. Yes, please go get that test done. Have that information, so then that way we at least know what are the foods that are going to be helping you and foods that are going to be harming you.
Were there things on your food sensitivity tests that were in the yellow or in the red that you were like, dang it, I can't give that up? And if so, what were they? Or what are they?
For me, they were eggs. Eggs. That was
I hate eggs. So if I took a food sensitivity test, I guarantee it would say that I need to eat them, and that would bum me out hardcore.
Yeah, like I had a lot of tacos. Like I loved breakfast tacos, man. Like that was my jam. So I had to get rid of the breakfast tacos for me. And then obviously like burritos, things like that. And for me, like having an egg in the morning, it was so different because that just kind of went with everything that I ate, whether it was bacon, bison for breakfast, or like cashews. I would always pair them with eggs. That's just for the nutritional value as far as amino acids, proteins, fats, things like that I know that eggs hold. But again, eggs just aren't for everyone. And it took for me to find out through that food sensitivity test that I just should not be having eggs every day.
When you got the tests, well, what about yours? Was there something on there that bummed you out?
Almonds was like off the charts. And I was like, what?
Yeah. And almonds
give everything.
They give people gout too. People don't really think almonds are like this big problem solved.
Yeah.
And almonds are really high in uric acid.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was having like almond milk every day, almond milk yogurt, like almonds in my chocolate bar. And so that was hard for me to take out, but I did because it was so off the charts.
What'd you replace all the almond byproduct, like the almond milk with?
We drink a lot of oat milk, honestly. Yeah. And I just was doing all the nuts because they're healthy, but like I don't miss like eating them all the time. I just think like I'm fine without them. But
do you still go back? You drive your cart past the egg aisle and you're like, don't look. Really?
Like, it doesn't even bother me anymore, thank God. But now if I see like a breakfast taco or something like that, it's just like, am I like 4 days out or?
Yeah. Do you ever indulge?
I try not to.
Yeah.
But
Can
every
you feel it?
I do
Isn't that weird?
absolutely
Yes,
feel it.
my face, like cystic acne. Like if I eat anything that has dairy in it and I didn't know it even had dairy, I'll have like 3 like cystic acne spots on my
Crazy.
face the next morning. So that was something like dairy just was causing all kinds of, I guess, hormonal imbalance maybe, because I know sometimes cystic acne comes from hormones, but when I took all dairy out and all the food sensitivity stuff, my face stopped breaking out because it was getting really, really bad. Like when I turned 26, just started breaking out worse. I've never even had breakouts, and it's like cystic acne
It's
every
coming
day.
out of nowhere, and
I
you're
was
like,
whoa.
I'm not 13 or 16. I'm 26.
Well,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
And I also did like a hormone test with Blake, and like my testosterone was like super high, and he's like, well, that's why your face is also breaking out. Like you got to kind of like, I mean, that's why stuff like that's important. Like I had no idea. Like
So you are flying blind, kind of. And
Yeah.
so, you hear fitness or nutrition experts, and they're always saying, like, listen to your body.
yeah.
Well, that's a really cool story, bro. Right? But my mind runs my body, and usually my mind's like, it is cheeseburger and cold beer time.
Yeah.
And so it's hard. If you could get concrete data, though, to build a plan on top of by knowing what your food sensitivities do. For the most part, do you think most humans have a food sensitivity of some sort? Like there is at least something they should stay away from?
By the time that they are 25, they have at least, I would say, maybe 5 or 6 on that list that they need to.
So it could be like
stay away from.
Nuts, blueberries, tuna fish, and you said turmeric. That's crazy that was.
Yeah.
How are they do? How's a food sensitivity test work? They just take your blood, and then they're I guess they're running it a lot like you would run allergy, like seasonal allergy tests.
Kind of so. Like they send it to a lab, and then the lab kind of like figures out exactly what's in the blood as far as obviously whenever they're taking the platelets and the red blood cells. Like there's something in it as far as they can figure out exactly the biome that in specific blood should be getting. Right. So your blood obviously is your greatest telltale sign on how healthy you are, besides you being able to procreate.
Life is in the blood, right? Didn't it say that somewhere in the Bible?
And
Yeah.
so the blood is basically going to tell you what you should be having as far as food wise. It's going to tell you how well your blood is circulating, things like that. And then also if there's any bacteria or anything like that in there also. So just understanding a little bit more on the specific person, just go get a test done. Right. And we say it all the time as far as like, yeah, go get your annually, what is it?
Your checkup or whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
And we have to do a little bit more about that. And as far as like making sure that those people are doing that, because those things are so important. Now you're saying like, yes, like listen to your body, but how are you listening to your body? Right. Because a lot of times, like, a lot of people go into the gym and they just
Netflix and chill time, man.
Right?
That's
Exactly.
yeah.
So like again, we go into a gym and we're more so like working at the joint level first, trying to listen to the body, right? Taking the joints, and then to an untrained eye, they just look like joint circles, right? You're just kind of taking your joint through large range of circles, and you're doing that for every joint that you have. And for a trained eye, you're more so understanding, trying to feel what is exactly going on as you're making those circles, right? Trying to draw that picture in your mind. If you can't draw that picture, then there's something off, right? And that may be coming at the muscle level, at the joint level, or something else that we have to just figure out. But usually CARs, controlled articular rotations, will kind of tell you an area, right, a specific that you need to either dive into, or you're strong there, stay away, right? You can go ahead and play as much as you want to in that region.
Yeah, that makes sense. Brooke, as a nutrition expert, is it true that your fitness really 95% of your fitness is at the end of your fork?
I do really think that people need to be careful about what they're eating. I've just personally myself, even just seeing like working out 7 days a week my entire life, some of those days like too much working out, honestly, but it always circled back to what I was eating every single time I ever gained weight. Like, how could you possibly gain like 10, 15 pounds if you're like working out 7 days a week? you're obviously eating too much, right? You're eating the wrong things maybe. Because, you know, when I took out the foods that were making me sensitive, I probably lost 5 to 7 pounds of like water weight. Or, you know, a lot of females take certain birth control, and once they get off that, they could also lose 7 to 10 pounds. It's like, we don't think about all these things that are causing inflammation in our body. But, you know, if you look into all that with hormone tests or food sensitivity or whatever, you can get more help to see if there's anything you can do to kind of fix your gut with a dietitian. But if you just want to go the easy route, yeah, you cannot eat more than you expend. But I think about how much we work out, and I think about how much some other people might eat, and I'm just like, well, we don't even eat that much, and we work out every day, and we're on our feet all day, like working. So sometimes it's something you have to address with your client about like their relationship with food. Like, why do you feel like you need to drink 4 glasses of wine at night? Why do you feel like you need to have 4 cheat days in a row, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Like, is there, you know, sometimes that's just an emotional response. Like, people have a relationship with food, and I think we need to pay more attention to that. Like, you can spend all this money with training, you can, you know, it's just a lot of like food relationship. So I'm sure you all have somebody in your life that you feel like has that, but we could definitely discuss it more.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can as athletes, we see food as fuel normally. We're eating to live, not living to eat. I think a lot of people eat because they're bored, or they're too lazy to prepare, or they just don't know any better. It's just, oh, I've always had this. And I don't think that so you said something really interesting, Luke, about maybe 7 minutes ago. You said it's when you get into your mid 20s, that's when that's when like the celiac gene will make itself known. Like late 20s, early 30s, people are like, what the hell's going on? Then they'll go get this
I'm lactose intolerant.
Yeah. And you hear it all the time. I've eaten this my whole life. Why would it change now? Why does that change for people? Just because your gut changes? Or is it because you have been eating that your whole life that it's breaking down that biome in your gut and causing that damage?
That's exactly right. Is because what's happening there is as you age, right, things change, right? Depending on how well you've taken care of your gut up until that moment, the surroundings on exactly where you've placed yourself depends on the food that's readily available to you, right? So seasonal foods, things like that, those all matter, right? So making sure that the individual is getting seasonal foods, but then once you start going outside of that, as far as processed foods and highly processed foods, then you're starting to mess with that gut biome, that natural gut biome that is inside of you that is supposed to naturally heal you, right? And supposed to get rid of all those things. When you start to kind of put different things inside of that, then it messes with that, then it's not able to do its job correctly. Then at that point, at the ages, usually 25, 30, anywhere between there, usually you'll have a little bit of change. You'll have like a cheesecake or some macaroni, and you're like, whoa, what's going on right now? That was exactly the same thing for me.
Wow.
And I love cheese and sugar. Cheese and sugar was my jam. 25 hit, and it was like, what is going on? Like, I just all of a sudden couldn't have it anymore.
What were you feeling? Like sluggish?
Like super sluggish.
Brain fog?
I was a vegetarian up until I was 13 years old.
Oh, okay.
And so until I was 13, like, I never had meat. Until then, up until 25, I would say, I'm sorry, from the age of 18 to 28, whatever I wanted. Like, because I was so strict in that time, I felt like I had this window to just do whatever I wanted. So I was McDonald's, like all over the place, fast food. And so 21 is when I was like, okay, like, you gotta slow down. It wasn't the fact that I was overweight or anything like that, because I was super skinny. I couldn't get overweight if I wanted to be. I wasn't that body type. And so for me, it was once I figured out, okay, what is healthy like food? And I thought I was eating healthy. And then it was, okay, what can I do to maximize my nutrition personally? And as far as like what I thought was good, was so far away from what was actually good for me.
When you guys did the food sensitivity test and you figured out can't have this anymore, did you start to notice more of a sense of well-being as your biome changed and is sending better message? Can you talk a little about that? I don't think people understand. They think I'm depressed, I'm bummed out, and the first thing they do is go get a pill.
Yeah.
And the last thing a conventional doctor asks them is, I want you to tell me what you ate for the last 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, the almonds, for example, I noticed whenever I started, I would test it out, I would get really bad acid reflux all day. Or I didn't know why I kind of had like a dull headache every morning, but sunflower was like one of my red foods. And so the milk I was drinking, the almond milk I was drinking had sunflower oil in it. I was like, wow, I'm just like drinking
Stuff's in
almonds and
everything,
sunflower oil
right?
first thing in the morning. I was adding an egg to a lot of my meals. And
have you cut eggs too?
oh yeah, that was another red food.
Was
Cilantro.
it? Hey,
was
at least
a
you
red
guys are
food.
in that together, right?
Yeah,
So she was over here crushing breakfast tacos. You might be like, you know what? I'm gonna go on a 10-hour
I
walk.
would feel a kind of way for sure.
Well,
Cilantro, wow.
cilantro. So I like ever since I was a kid, I was like, why do I always feel so sick after eating Mexican food? And so then I figured out it was cilantro, and I'm like, oh my god. So I kind of backed away from it a little bit, but now I know better. Like, well, can't do that, but I can have corn, so I do eat a lot of tortilla chips. It's kind of become my
There you
thing.
go.
But I was gonna say, like, I think lack of gut diversity is why people do develop these sensitivities as they get older.
Oh, they're just eating the same thing over and over?
Yeah, and then I think about some of the dumb diets I did. Like you talked about fad diets. Like, when I was in my 20s, I was like, I'm doing keto for 2 years. And then I started being allergic to several things, like breaking out in hives, like sweet potatoes. I ate those my entire life. Now all of a sudden I did keto and now I'm allergic to them. And then I also had all those other food sensitivities. So I'm wondering if sometimes some of those fad diets we tried in our younger years might have affected us later on. But I'm not sure if you feel that way, like being vegan for a little bit.
Absolutely, because obviously in my earlier years being vegetarian, I was a little bit more eating obviously the what was it, the almond milks and things like that. And so when you're having those things in excess later on, you can only pull so much, right? Without pulling from another area of your body. And so yes, I had a lot of different things that I was dealing with personally in my gut that didn't show up until I was 25, 30.
Have you ever tried a fad diet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Man.
Which
Sure.
ones?
Atkins. I mean, that was a big thing. So now that I'm trying to repair all this brain damage, they definitely go really hard in the paint, telling me to get more fat in my diet. So it's weird. Like you talk to old school people with the old, like the food pyramid bullshit, and it's that says it's high in fat, so it's
Right.
bad for you, and just all of these like I don't know, they're just misnomers. They're like just taken as truth, right? You learned it in home ec class in high school that the food pyramid's what you're supposed to do. What else have I done? I mean, low carb, because that makes sense to me. If I'm not. But then I get was getting these horrible headaches in the afternoons. And so I don't always have time to just like eat, but I've figured out a way with some meal replacement type stuff to get a little better. And now I'm really getting into the macros, and I feel like watching that and measuring it out and at least having an idea of like what I'm doing. The other thing that I've done is completely eliminate all artificial sugar. And I've done that in the last 3 months, and that's been amazing.
Man, it's
and
gotta be hard too.
Great.
well, but
you feel better.
I can't be super bragger guy, because what I did is I wasn't eating any fruit because I was, watching these other guys, especially power lifters. They're like, no, fruit's terrible, right? Stay away. I don't know really what I was doing there. So I just said no more of any of that. I'm going to do as much fruit as I can. Like literally, I'll eat an entire pineapple in a day. I'll eat a couple apples. And that satiates the sweet tooth. I'm really on the sugar thing. I feel amazing with no sugar. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also like if it does make you personally feel good, maybe it's not a fad diet. Maybe that's just something that works better for you and your lifestyle. Because
Well, don't you think it's weird that people get all up in arms on the internet talking like the carnivore people are calling the vegetarians and the vegans something, and the vegetarians and the vegans are calling, and now it's like a political, they politicize. It's like the food you need to run on is what you need. If every human is truly a snowflake, right? We're all totally different. Not the snowflake like the way the politics, but we're all original, right?
Yeah.
So there's we have a little different template. Yeah. I just don't think that people understand that like what is good for you isn't good for me.
Exactly.
And if we, go to dinner after this or whatever, I'm not going to sit there and judge you because you didn't order eggs and I did. That's a weird thing though.
Differently. And again, we got to think about the differences that we all have and just accept those things, because if we can't accept our differences, again, even when we go out and have dinner, we won't be able to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
I think the fad diet thing is weird too, because a lot of people just think like, oh, because it did work for that person.
Yeah.
That's an easy. Everyone's looking for the easy button.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there an easy button to nutrition and fitness, y'all?
No.
But you guys have found a way to make it sustainable, where you're not hating life. You can, maybe you had to cut things out that you didn't want to cut out, but now you've got a sustainable plan. Is that what you try to help your clients realize too?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Obviously, she talked a lot about just their relationship with food, right? So the relationship with food tells them a lot, right? Because a lot of what we do gets around food, birthdays, celebrations, things like that. And we have these different kinds of foods even that we bring on those kinds of days, cakes, pies, things like that. The most infamous is Thanksgiving, right? We love to overstuff ourselves with stuffing and turkey and stuff like that, and then we go watch the Cowboys hopefully win, but we normally pass out by then, right?
Yeah.
And that's because we have overeaten. A good nutrition coach would tell you never to overeat. And that's because when you overeat, your brain is getting signals 5 minutes later from your gut, right? Usually by then you've overstuffed yourself. By the time your brain gets signals from your gut says, hey, I'm full, you are over full, right?
It's too late.
It's too late. You've already done too much, right? So you got to pay attention a little bit more. That's why I usually tell if anybody's having issues to eat slow. Eating slower not only will help you to kind of figure out as you're eating it if it agrees with you or not, and you can also have a better relationship with your food as you're eating it, because you're not gorging yourself, right? You're actually like sitting down and appreciating the food and the time in your company with other people. And so when you do those things, so much changes around your relationship with food.
What's break down for people how bad alcohol is for the gut biome and what it does to people mentally that they don't realize. Like, right, they're putting a depressant in their body.
Yeah.
It's such a pervasive part of our culture. Wherever we go, whatever we do, it's a funeral, it's a wedding, it's a graduation, it's a barbecue, and everybody's boozing. As a nutrition expert, what's so bad about booze?
Whenever you drink alcohol, your body actually will metabolize everything else in your system as alcohol. So it'll slow your metabolism down. If you hadn't noticed that when you do drink, like, you wake up in the middle of the night, you don't feel good, you're dehydrated, your body's trying to process the alcohol. So it's going to take all night, maybe all day the next day to get it out of your system, right? So if you're trying to concentrate on something, but your body's trying to metabolize this alcohol you drank, like sometimes you lose focus when you drink alcohol. It's just trying to, your metabolism's trying to kick in and process it all. So I personally don't drink very often, maybe once or twice a year, maybe, but I've just found that it just feels so toxic to my body that like I can't even stand to drink it. I know everyone's not a complete lightweight, but I will say from my perspective, it can like put me back even 5 days out if I had a night out of drinking. It's just, I don't have time to slow my metabolism down and like, miss a couple cognitive days, but that's just me personally.
Yeah, it's it's not good for us. I don't think anybody thinks it's a health food. It's just always there.
Yeah.
It's legal.
Yeah.
It's it's everywhere. It's always marketed, and it's so bad, and people don't realize it, and it just sort of becomes, I think a lot of people go on autopilot when it comes to their nutrition, right?
Yep.
It's Taco Tuesday, or it's this or it's that, and
There's always a reason.
yeah.
There's always a reason to eat. There's always a reason to drink. It's just like, at what point do we need to understand that we always have access to alcohol? We always have access to food. Why do we need to overdrink? Why do we need to overeat? It's always going to be there. I don't know, like, what happens in our lives when we think that we have scarcity, but like here in the US, like, more than likely we don't have scarcity. So the fact that people always feel like they need to overeat, or like, oh, I need to finish this whole dessert, I'm never going to get it again.
Right.
Really? You're never
Yeah.
going to get it again?
So a little bit of discipline goes a long way, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Very long.
Is it bro science that if you eat like 6 times a day, if you're trying to bulk up or you're trying to get stronger, that works? Or is a calorie, it doesn't matter when? And if you can loop in this intermittent fasting thing, which is a big fad and has been for a couple of years, how that applies?
Again, it's all individualized, but I would say that if a person is going through and they're having these ideas of doing certain things, they just need to do a little bit more research, right? If they did the research on understanding if that is the thing for them, then they would slowly kind of roll themselves into that kind of diet. And if it gets better for them, then go a little bit further with it. But if you see changes, things kind of happen, your energy levels changed, you're always tired, things like that, that is not for you, right? But we just have to understand, don't go all the way with it in the beginning. You have to slow roll yourself into those things. Again, I was a vegan for a little bit. This was probably when I was 30. This is 4 years ago now. I'm dating myself. And this is when the
No grays, man. I'm impressed.
Mine's strong,
Mine's showing up big time
Hold
these
strong.
days.
And so there was a documentary that came out, What the Health? Scared the shit out of everyone.
Yeah.
Scared the shit out of me too. So, I mean, obviously I kind of looked at what I was eating, what I was putting in my body even further. And so at that level, I didn't understand at the time that it was an industry funded
What's new? Yeah. What's new?
And so I became a vegan for a little bit, and this was just to get rid of everything that I had in my gut. So I got rid of all the processed foods, all the meats, the dairy, which was the hardest, the sugars, everything. And I also got rid of my muscle in the same time. For me, I mean, obviously I'm not the biggest guy. And so whenever it takes a lot for me to pack on muscle, and whenever I put it on, it's very easy for me to lose it. And so for me to get that back, like, that's hard. And so for me to watch myself visually through my nutrition just dwindle away, and me saying, no, it's not my nutrition, this and that. Like, I went under everything under the sun. I was supplementing my B12, making sure my protein levels were where they needed to be at. I make sure I was getting my water, I was getting my sleep. I was still tired, I was still hungry all the time. Being vegan, you're literally like, I'm not saying this just because this is my personal opinion on it. Like, I was always hungry. I was never able to get enough food in. And so I was consistently snacking all the time. And then whenever I got to the point where I was like, man, forget it. Fuck it. I'm going to get like a burger or something like that, or like an Impossible Burger or something. It was just so processed, and I felt so weighed down that I came to the idea after reading a lot of, this is a strength coach, Charles Poliquin.
Mm-hmm.
And rest in peace. He preached a lot about bison. And so before I jumped in, I was did a lot of research and this and that, and you do research, and then obviously a lot comes up with Native Americans, with bisons, especially how they almost took them extinct. They use them from the rooter to the tutor, all the way down from the skin, everything, right? So bison alone not only has a high protein count, but it's highly digestible also once you get down to it. So once I started to add a little bit of bison into my diet, not only did I see changes in my energy levels, but then also I was able to immediately start putting on muscle. And so for me, being a personal trainer at the time, Yeah, this is this is my business card. My body is my business card.
Right.
So I was able to not jump in full force as far as eating meat, because literally every time I ate meat, I felt like I had a brick in my stomach, because it was just so much like in my stomach at one time. My stomach wasn't able to break that down at the level it is now, right? So after I would eat meat, I would only usually eat it in the mornings. So I would only have it in the mornings for, I would say, about 2 months. After those 2 months, I added in my chicken to my lunches. And then from there, I want to say I gained maybe 10 pounds, no body fat. So it's basically all in muscle. So the changes happened, and all my levels stayed the same throughout. So my cortisol levels were the same. Everything was still good. And so I made sure to check all those levels as I did that, just to make sure if anything changed, then I would be able to go back immediately.
How often were you checking the levels? Like once a month?
I was doing it
or-
every 3 months.
Every 3 months.
3 months, yeah.
Okay. Do either of you ever fast, like go an entire day and it's just water or anything like that?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
I tried doing some of that like when I was doing the keto stuff, but it does not work for the way I train personally.
Sure.
I think based on how people train, that was going to be the point I was going to make about diets. Everyone trains differently. We all have different regimen. For me personally, how I train, like mixing in the Muay Thai and the boxing, I absolutely have to have like a 60% carb ratio in my diet. Or I've tried it before, going in and just eating like a bison salad. I'm like passing out, and Jess, my coach, is like, well, did you eat any carbs? And I'm like, no. And she's like, yeah, of course not. Like,
Sure.
like you have to eat carbs if you want to do this sport. It's going to give you the energy that you need. But I think if people aren't doing something that's so like high intensity, like if you're going on walks every day and that's kind of your cardio, then, maybe you would be okay with a day fast. But I don't know. Have you ever felt like you can fast for a day?
I do actually. For me personally, I do an upper body, lower body split for my workouts. So usually on my upper body days, I will fast. I usually cut all the sugars out of my coffee. I'll just have my coffee in the mornings. I will not have anything to eat until after I work out. That usually works pretty well for me as far as having a fasted workout. On my leg days, completely different. I'll usually have my overnight oats those days. I'll put a little bit more sweetness in my coffee, as I like normally, with a little bit of agave. And then I'll just go from there. But usually if I'm in the middle of a fast or something like that, usually I don't call it fasting. I just like to just have my coffee, and just because I'm usually just normally not hungry. I mean, personally, I only have 2 meals a day.
Okay.
Like right after my workout, usually around like 10 or 11, and then dinner time. That's
Yeah.
it. Like, and they're pretty big meals, and I usually snack in between there a little bit, but that's nothing on maybe like a bar or something like
Right.
that in the middle of the day.
Is it also bro science that if you want to boost your own body's testosterone, you should activate your lower body if you're a guy, even not on leg days?
There is definitely some truth to that, because the science is
Studies have shown, like Liver King would say.
Yeah. And then even like, I mean, if you look at all the guys from, I mean, this is pretty fad, but the movie 300, that's basically the training method that those guys were on. They were doing 100 reps of leg presses on their upper body days, right? And then they were doing the same thing opposite on their lower body days. And that's to kind of create that testosterone. Side story about that is I had a friend of mine that she transitioned. And so when she transitioned, I had to kind of go into my bag essentially and kind of do some studying as far as like, okay, like her testosterone levels are changing. What do we need to kind of assist her into kind of making sure that changes well, or once she gets there, then she'll be able to sustain those levels, right? So basically, yeah, heavy squats, lower body squats, and so, or heavy lifting for her legs. So what that does is just kind of stimulates, right? Women grow muscle, estrogen levels, at least because of estrogen, from the waist down, because we don't have that testosterone from the waist up, right? That's why we get bigger from the waist up. The shoulders get big, your chest get big, things like that. And we have to kind of offset that a little bit by something. And that's with training methods like that.
Gotcha. the big problem that a lot of us see or a lot of us have is that we sit a lot. Just people in general.
It's the new smoking.
Yeah, and at the beginning you said we're designed to walk around, to work, to plant and cultivate crops. You grew up around that,
Yes.
right? But not in a combine. Like are the way, however you believe that the human body was created or evolved, it was designed to take on a task. So when you're meeting with a client and they're telling you about an injury, or I've got my hip, I can't do this exercise, Brooke, because my shoulder or my hip or my knee. Can you immediately tell, both of you, when you're walking behind someone that something's tight on them, or that because you guys have so much experience? And then how do you help, especially your lady clients who are coming in who might have an ache or a pain and they're like, I don't know if I need surgery, or how's that work?
Well, just even the other day, I had an example of someone that she thought she had injured her back, just like moving a plant. So like, I don't know if I should work out tomorrow. I'm just letting you know. And I said, well, I think we can actually activate your hip muscles to take that tension off your back. And so she came in and we did, some of the hip opener exercises and strengthening exercises, and the pain actually went away pretty quickly from her back. So I think the same thing happens with people that sit all day. Their hip flexors get really tight, and then they come in and we strengthen their hip flexors. We don't just stretch for an hour, we strengthen them, and then we take them through their new range of motion with some exercises. And then that's just how you build strength in the long run. But you kind of have to, in our opinion, strengthen those small muscles that you never think about. Like, we don't walk in a lateral plane of motion, right? So people are always sitting up and down, everything's shortened. So I guess the least you could do is get up and move around every hour. Get up and do some hip cars every couple hours. But just completely staying immobile is not it. Like, we got to figure out how to get people to move more.
Yeah, so those stand-up desks, or using those inflatable balls. So lots of injuries from rugby. Actually, these motherfuckers all up here make fun of me for always talking about them. Couple new shoulders, some hip stuff.
Really?
Yeah, they always making fun of me because when I first started the podcast, I would talk about my operations. So now I'm really self-conscious. Fuck you guys. So I've had a bunch of knee surgeries.
Okay.
And I'm like, man, this is sucking. I'm probably gonna have to get it cut again. And then out of nowhere, I hear Rogan talking about the knees over toes guy. And I go look at his stuff and just start doing his stuff, and it's completely
Great.
Everything is fixed.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Does that type of thing where Rogan's going talking about this guy who figured out, he had bad knee issues. He finally got his college scholarship. If you know anything about his story, his trainer, college basketball trainer, is like, no, you can't do your regimen. You have to do mine. He had to give up his scholarship.
Whoa.
When the spotlight gets shined on something like that, does it help you guys? Because it's becoming more mainstream. So when someone does have an injury, it's not just, I got to go talk to my orthopedist. I'm gonna have to go under the knife again. You guys are figuring out a way to help them fix themselves, especially you at the functional movement and all of that.
Absolutely, because a lot of times clients, athletes, everyday people come in with all these like soft tissue injuries, things like that they think that they need to get surgery for, or they need to get acupuncture for, or something like that. So actually breaking the skin and going through the muscle causes so much that we just don't know about, because again, if you're pulling from someplace, you're prying from another, right? And so not just the muscles, not just the joints, but our connective tissue, the fascial layers that connect everything within our body, that matters a lot within inside of our body. It's a whole organism that we pretty much just don't really study a whole lot about. And so the fascia in the body will kind of let you know different things as far as if things are tight, if things are pulling, if something is good or not, right? And so not just the muscle and not just the joint, but understanding how the body as a whole is put together, right? So we have these things called meridians, lines of pull that pull on the body, right? Because too many times, especially as far as trainers and everyday people, we look at a muscle or we see a muscle and we just think of, oh, okay, my bicep does this, right? No, the bicep does more than that. It will stabilize, it rotates, right? And so not just this, but how it's all connected down my arm, up my shoulder, and across my body. And so understanding how those lines of pull kind of we can kind of figure out different ways of breaking ourselves out of certain patterns of sitting, right? Of certain things, of getting back to what we're meant to do, like move. The muscles are meant to slide and pull on bones. The bones stabilize us. Our nervous system gives us the information from outside sources, right? And too many times we're playing with things and not knowing what exactly they're doing to our bodies, like the food, like the shoes, like the sitting, like the smoking, like all these different things. And they're just coming at us at a full force all the time. How do we block it? Like, we're dodging. We can only duck and dodge and dip so much. Like, and we have to be our own kind of like figuring out what can get by and what can't. Like, what are we gonna matrix slide out of the way just to dodge, right? So, I mean, we can only do that so much throughout the day and allow certain things to get in, right?
When 26 months ago or whatever, when gyms were closing and everyone had to, we all had to distance, yeah. What,
I loved it.
How did that affect your business?
Honestly, it affected me in the sense of I was forced to learn how to do stuff outside of the gym. Because I would say 2.5 years ago, I was a completely different trainer. It was just more about barbells, like all day, like barely any like other kind of movement training. But I was forced to learn, okay, you're gonna like learn to apply FRC and you're gonna learn Viper Pro. And it was such a headache learning all those moves, and I was so frustrated. But now I feel like I'm like, oh, I like the Viper, I like FRC, and this is how I do actually like to train. So as much as I hated COVID, that time off away from the gym, it actually did benefit me immensely in my career now 2 years later. But I think it did. If you didn't use that time to learn something new, like, you were really wasting your time, because it actually did just give us all a door to like really focus on something for those 8 weeks. And then the gym opened back up, and it was like, you can apply it, but then you're also excited to get back to some of your like heavy lifts. But then you kind of realize like, well, maybe the FRC and the functional movements is more important than just like forcing myself to keep adding another plate.
Sure. Was it tough for you guys? Like, you can't train clients, or you couldn't train clients? Or you doing virtual stuff?
Trained.
For me, obviously, like I say, I loved it just because I was able to go outside.
Yeah.
Right. So I was already used to going outside every now and then. Right. When the weather was nice. I was forced to go outside at that point. You had to go outside and train your people. Obviously, the thing was stay 6 feet away from everybody, things like that. Right. And so you were able to do that outside. I was already at the point where my people were comfortable taking off their shoes, working out without their shoes on, like understanding that, yes, we're going to pull something. I didn't use a whole lot, me personally, for the past 3 years. I haven't used a lot of equipment in the gym anyway. We'll use some bands, maybe some sliders, some Vipers, the tubes, things like that. But a lot of body weight, right? Functional training. And so once all that happened, I was, let's go outside. And so once we did that, it became not only the opportunity to restructure the business and then play and have fun with it, but to kind of understand how is my business structured personally, because I was a new business owner at the time because I had just broken away from the gym that I was working at. And so when I did that, I want to say I was maybe 4 months into my LLC. And so at the time I had to kind of figure out, once the gyms opened back up, how was I going to condense things or my clientele, so then that way I could either take more clientele on and or have everyone just paying my rate, because my rate was different. And so I had grandfathered all my old clients in, and so I paired all my other clients up. So that time period gave me the perfect amount of time to figure out my business model, and then to still be able to make money outside that, and then continue to just put more time into me personally that I needed personally. yes, that time gave me the perfect opportunity to just kind of sit down with myself and just make sure that everything around me was good. Not a lot of people were able to do that just because not a lot of things around them were okay. And so that is the main driver also that pushed me going back to school, because I knew that coming out of this COVID thing, if we're even out of it right now, that people would require a good amount of touch as far as understanding what was going on inside of their body. My main thing is I like to help people. And so not only with training, but with also massage, you're able to touch the individual at a deeper level to make sure to create change at the muscle level, the tension, and create a little bit more cohesiveness inside the body.
On the, you've mentioned massage, you mentioned acupuncture. Is cupping bullshit? Does it work?
Cupping is good, man, because it's been around for centuries. So anything that is tried and true.
What's it do?
It's basically
Massage give you
it's
a weird pattern on your skin.
It's rushing blood to the area. And so when you get a rush of blood to the specific area, it's causing healing. Right, that's all it's doing. And now, obviously, the more bruising you get, the more healing you got.
Weird.
And so, usually, the bruising is a sign of good, right? And you don't want too much, right? But as long as you see like a little bit of a pattern there, then that's usually pretty good. It's going to change, obviously, from person to person, depending on how well and what's going on in their own body at the time. But there is a really good significance that you can get out of cupping, for sure.
Yeah. When you're trying to help ladies get in shape and they're just like, Brooke, I just don't like the gym. I don't like working out. You talked before and then you've picked up on it a couple other times, all these different things you do throughout the week. So you're looking forward to it. How important is it to the sustainability of someone's fitness regimen that they are looking forward to it? And when is it time to just go, I don't like that. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to maybe go do some tennis one day, or I'm going to go swim one day. And how have you been able to hone your craft as a trainer to listen to your client instead of just going, okay, Karen, see you never again, but figure something out that's maybe creative that would maybe get them outside or that just makes it doable for them to look forward to it. How do you approach that challenge?
I have realized through the years of my training that you need to listen to your clients. Don't give them what you think is best. Listen to what they want. So maybe they are getting burnt out from coming to the gym. Okay, would you like me to meet you at a park and do some of the Viper movement, or do you want me to come to your house? No, maybe you need a break. Do you just want to start doing a walk every day, every other day? Like, what can we do to make sure you're happy? I'm not going to force you to come in and train with me if you need a little bit of a break. And then sometimes they might open up and it's a completely different issue. But trying to diversify what we do when we move, I think, is the best way to get them. Like a calendar, maybe, okay, maybe Sunday you're doing some active recovery. Maybe you and your spouse go on a long walk and you get a coffee and you enjoy your walk. Monday, maybe you go to the gym and work out with your trainer. Tuesday, maybe you find some kind of HIIT activity to do. Do you do a spin class? Do you want to run on your treadmill at home? Like, what can we do to make sure that you're doing something that you want to do and that you will do? So another thing is, people might think that they want to wake up for that 6 a.m. class. Like, do you want to wake up for that 6 a.m. class? Or is there something else we can try to make sure you do today that you will actually do?
So maybe this fitness thing for everyone doesn't always have to be the Jocko Willink, David Goggins, just quit being a pansy. Maybe it could actually be something enjoyable. When did you first start picking up Muay Thai?
2 years ago.
Did you notice any functional challenges there? Like, were your hip? Did you have soreness in your hip flexors? And
Yes.
How did you address that? Because that's a people all the time. When I've done it, that's been my biggest thing. Right? And then I've learned from Knees Over Toes guy and looking at y'all's content that my hip flexors are so weak. It's just insane. And many of us are. What'd you do though to get over that so you could keep going?
So I ended up having a problem in my neck. Couldn't even turn my neck like all the way to the right. And I was like, what is wrong with me? It just like lingered and lingered. I tried doing different kinds of movement for it, getting a lot of deep tissue massages, scraping, cupping. But I finally
Did you try
realized,
Graston
what
ever?
is that?
Like
Yeah, it's
really
the
aggressive
scraping tool also.
scraping
Oh,
tool.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did that also.
It does not go easy on me. It was more about the scapular retraction is what I needed to learn. And it's one of my coaches with the FRC Kin Stretch kind of taught me was you're in protraction all the time when you're boxing. You are always have your shoulders rotated forward. You're never like sitting here like this, right? You're never using your scapular retraction. So I have been going through and learning how to retrain my scapula, and now the neck pain is all going away. And I was trying to do every other thing to try to get that to go away, but it wasn't ever actually coming from my neck, which Luke has told me the whole time, or Jess, my boxing coach, has told me, but it's usually stemming from somewhere else. So for me, that was my biggest issue, and now I'm so happy I can do that. But I think that's another important thing for trainers is we need to put ourselves out there and do a lot of different activities, because now I understand if someone comes in with a neck problem, I'm like, oh, it might not be coming from your neck. It could be coming from anywhere else.
Yeah, no, but you guys have expressed now and said several times each that you're always learning, and that
Yes.
and is a lot of that learning done because you talked about your friend who is transitioning. So you go in and do this, you're doing this research, you pick up a martial art, you start having this pain. So it's, where does that curiosity come from in both of you to always be pushing and always be learning? And where's your entrepreneurial fire come from, where you're not just punching a clock and good to go with 2 weeks off a year, but you're actually trying to get out there and build your own thing?
I said it before. My main thing is I like helping people, right? So that is always going to be my main driver. I will always help people at my biggest and most helpful capacity that I possibly can. And the thing is, when I go to learn, it's always due to someone that has pushed me in a certain kind of way, right? So I have to expand what I already know to be able to service this individual. If I can't individual that person with what I know, then I have to pass that person on to another person who knows more than I do. And as coaches, we have to humble ourselves in that regard a lot of different times. And because certain people will come with certain issues, and that's out of my scope of practice, right? You need to go to a doctor. You need to go get a checkup, things like that. So if it's not, again, for me, I can look at something because I'm always learning, and especially right now with the fascial trains, the lens that they give you as far as being able to not only see but understand what's going on in the body, how it's pulling, you assess things a lot differently. You approach things a lot differently also as far as your exercise and things like that. So not only will the clients kind of understand exactly what's going on, but they appreciate those things also. So I'm always trying to take care of my people, number one. Two, as far as education goes, like, the body's always changing. And so what we know about the body is always changing. So we have to not only be at the forefront of that, so in that way we're not disregarding sciences, but we are just having them to the side of us and trying to understand how they play out in the body, and when and if we should be using them. So different things like that, as far as like just having different, I would say, strength conditionings, nutrition, right, mobility, functional training in your bag as a trainer, so in that way when things come up, then you'll know how to address them. That's the main thing.
What's been your biggest challenge in your entrepreneurial journey? The biggest thing that's the hardest thing for you to get squared away? Is it like setting expectations with clients and being like, hey, we're going to set you up, I'm going to get you 10 sessions, you got to pay for all 10, got to do it now? What's been your biggest challenge as a woman, an entrepreneur, building your own thing?
Sometimes I feel like it is hard to try to like nail down that dollar amount, because I mean, it is tough times, I mean, who knows what we're heading for, but sometimes nailing down that
They always got us scared of something, man.
Always.
Always.
Sometimes, it is hard to nail down that initial cost, but after seeing like the good I provide people over the past couple of years, it's gotten easier for me to say, nope, this is just my price. So if you're not able to, it's totally fine. I understand. We can group you up. You can come to my class on Saturday, or I can refer you to somebody else that might charge you less for the hour session. I would say like that's probably always the hardest part, but getting people to like fully commit to the process, that it's not like the way we train isn't just going to give you like miraculous 2-week results.
Right.
But you have to actually,
Because it all depends on what you've been doing up till now.
Oh yeah. We got to like, when you're going through and strengthening your hips, your shoulders, your back, like we got to spend time like doing the tiny little muscles that you might not see in 2 weeks. So just trusting the process and trusting that like all the things we're doing from the bottom up is going to be better than just like getting you to lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks and then that's it.
Sure. The Dallas fitness community, is it pretty tight knit, or do people sector off and attack each other there like they do in every other business and industry? Is it?
Everybody pretty much knows everybody. But at the same time, I would say that obviously you still have your sex. So you have the people who are doing mobility, things like that. And you have the people who are just trying to learn and do all. Whether it's good or bad, they still want to learn it. So in that way, they understand if it's bad or if it's good.
Your ability, what do you guys do to network with other folks, with other coaches, fitness, nutrition,
So I usually
massage?
I work with a group of coaches that we call ourselves a known body. And so right now there's 5 of us. We're all spread from Dallas to Frisco to Addison. And so we kind of work to collectively bring coaches together to do that same thing, just to kind of mix and mingle and learn and push ideas off of each other.
Sure.
And so with that, we'll do seminars and we'll bring coaches in. And we have one that we'll do over, it's basically over how to coach your clients, and then also understanding the importance that the role that you play in your client's life. So we pose questions like that just to kind of get coaches' minds to kind of fire in a little bit different way, because not only we just get too wrapped around just the hour, like get this person in, get this person out, but not on how are we really affecting that person's life. We know that we're only there for an hour, maybe 2, 3 out of that week, right? But the long lasting effect that we have on that person's life or that person's week or month is huge, because we're trying to alter their decision making in every waking hour. So in that way, not only is it making our job easier, but it's affecting their life at a greater level. And so, I mean, for me, at least, one of the problems that I have for a lot of my clients is that they try to place their problems onto you or onto me. I'm like, well,
Work your magic, Luke. Fix me.
yeah, I'm like, well, I can give you the tools. We can work through this, right? But you have to also be proactive about.
You can lead a
getting
horse to
these
water.
things. Exactly.
Yep.
And so again, like, I only see you for an hour, right? Everything that we do outside of that, like, you have to keep all your actions in mind and in correlation to your goals. If you go outside of that for an hour or two, is it going to be easy for you to come back? Right? Or are you going to be gone for 2-3 days and it's going to be impossible for you to come back or get back on track from there?
Sure. How do you get most of your new clients? Is that mostly through referrals? You're helping people really change their lives, and then they're telling everybody about them at the July 4th barbecue or whatever?
I would say it's always referrals. Like very rarely it's ever, we get a lot of quality referrals, I would say.
Yes.
And it's because of the work that you do. So like, someone might be complaining about their shoulder, their hip, their back hurting. Like, well, I used to have that problem until we started training this way. It's like, wow, really? Like, I don't have to just go to go somewhere else every week and get this taken care of. It's like, no, you can actually like fix the problem by strengthening the muscle. It's just, for some reason, that is just, no one knows that.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between doing business transactionally and relationally, you touched on it. When you're helping somebody really change, maybe you're helping somebody get through an injury, or you're helping somebody who's just taken up a martial art and can't move their neck, and what is it that's so fulfilling about you? You've said you like helping people several times, but having that hey, they're paying you for your services because you're well qualified and obviously you produce results. But at the end of the day, are you walking away from your day to day, what you do for a living, with the level of fulfillment that you expected, or more than that because it's not transactional, it's relational? Is that a thing?
I feel like we get a lot of fulfillment from our sessions. Like it becomes the point where you like just really care about your clients, you care about their well-being, you want them to be okay. And I do like feel overwhelmed if I can't figure out what the issue is, but it is nice to be able to collaborate with Luke. What do you think about this situation? And he always has an answer for me, or there's always like something. You always just want to keep the person in mind, like I said earlier, like what is their best interest?
If someone was to move to Frisco from California, and they don't know where to go. Obviously, there's an LA up there, there's a Lifetime, there's a Texas family up there, but they're like, man, I don't know. I really want to find someone like y'all, but y'all are in downtown. Is the network that you've built the type of thing where maybe they find you on social media, they could reach out and go, hey, do you know someone who is like-minded and does things the way y'all do, but that's maybe a little further up north?
Absolutely. The network goes pretty far. Obviously, the known body, we have a lot of coaches in Frisco also.
Yeah.
But not only in Frisco, but the network ranges all of Dallas and all of Texas. So specifically, if you're looking for a specific coach that you specifically need, the websites, as far as how we train and how we got our certifications under, will kind of point you in the right direction, right? So understanding like, okay, if I need a person that is going to give me mobility, you can go to a website and you can go look at a list of trainers, and you can go plug in your zip code, and you can find a list of trainers in that area. That's pretty much with just about anything. Strength and conditioning, mobility, if you have a high school athlete that you need to go get worked on, things like that. But obviously that's not going to give you quality work. You'll just get a person that will be able to do that for you. Now, having trust and understanding on if that's going to be quality or not, you're going to have to find that out for yourself.
Sure.
From there. So doing your research,
maybe you won't click with the
first person you meet, right? But the second or third.
Have you all kicked anybody out of here? Have you all said, get the fuck out of my gym to anybody before?
I've fired 2 clients. And actually, I was just talking about this today with one of my clients. One was always...
hand him a pink slip.
Yeah. Well, she was always canceling her sessions last second, and I have a very firm 24-hour cancellation policy.
Yeah.
And so she was a brand new mom, and I was already excusing a lot of her tardies and excuses already. And there was one that she had. I remember that she said that she couldn't get her garage door open. And mind you, I was living in East Dallas at the time, or training in East Dallas, and she lived right around the corner. I knew this, so she could easily walk to the gym. She just didn't want to do it. 5-minute walk.
Right.
So we would always get down to the end of her 10-pack, and she was always kind of, I should have 2 more. I should have 3 more.
Yeah.
Things like that. Right. And so finally, we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then there was another time that I had to fire a client, and that was the only 2 times in my 7 years.
Yeah. Are you a client firing?
No. No, I kind of... Once I got to like
Midwest softy over here.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, just so you know, I would like to keep that 24-hour cancellation policy in mind.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to start, I kind of give them 2 tries, and then it's like, all right, we got to talk about this. But no, I try
We're not Uber drivers, And they're coming to us, whether it's to me for construction or to y'all for fitness, nutrition, rehabilitation, because they respect your knowledge. And sometimes you got to call people on their BS a little bit.
Exactly.
You've talked about working out outside. So, man, just ask. Everyone will tell you how hot it is, right?
Yeah.
I like right when it starts getting hot, I like to redo my schedule, and I go out there like from 4:30 to 6, like out random field, just get after, just get right in the face of the hydration piece of that though, and the output. So when you're in the gym, especially if you have a packed schedule, maybe leave your phone in the truck so you can go in and get to work. Do you encourage people to get outside for the variety, obviously, but then are there times when you're like, hey, you're not going to get the output that you want to change your body if it's 109 and you're out there and you're dying?
Yeah.
Or are you just encouraging, hey, try that for a day, but then maybe go work out in the AC so you can get a little more work done? How do you guys address that?
I love variability. I'll preach variability all day long. You can squat all day long 100 times, and every 100 squat is going to be completely different, right? So the same thing needs to be in our training, right? You need to see variability in there. You need different stimulus coming at you in different ways. And so going outside, taking your shoes off, getting on grass, getting on concrete, things like that are going to change the variabilities enough to where it challenges your brain and proprioceptions to think a little bit differently. And so not only does that help not only our stress levels, but also our decision making throughout the day and the week. Usually by Wednesday, a person's decision making has diminished by at least 40 to 60% because they have been making so many decisions throughout the week that usually by Thursday or Friday, they're just tired. So they're just on autopilot.
They're kind of giving up. And
whatever.
Going through the motions.
Can't wait to get to the weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Start back over again.
I think it's important to get outside. I try to, even though it's hot out, like, okay, what about when the sun goes down? What about before the sun comes up? Can you go out and go on a 20-minute walk? Just
It was
like
raining this morning. It was perfect out there.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Like, just, getting a little bit of vitamin D, just being outside in general. I mean, I think anyone could do a short walk at least, but I still train a couple people outside, and it's been hot lately, though I will say that, but they like it. They feel like, they're getting a nice little detox sweat.
Absolutely.
Going, and I'm like, yeah, well, I also am. So.
Yeah. Am I oversimplifying this statement or this axiom by saying if you see a hydration product on a commercial during the Lakers game, or if you see a Muscle Milk commercial, or if you see a GNC commercial, all that's probably not that great for you?
I gotten away from the protein powder supplements, but I do drink an electrolyte supplement like 2 to 3 times a day because I sweat a lot and I'm always drinking water.
More just though that like the really mainstream stuff like Gatorade doesn't work. It's garbage. You see little kids drinking it all the time. It's trash. Or when you're advising your clients about what supplements to try to acquire, especially hydration or meal replacement type stuff, what's your advice there? Because this shit's expensive, man.
Right. I personally have gotten a lot of my clients to do more of an electrolyte powder because I also think that if they're even slightly dehydrated or behind on their water consumption, they're probably going to eat more. So if they're drinking the electrolyte powder, they're probably not as thirsty. They're replenishing a lot of their stores that they sweat out. It's been several years since I've recommended meal replacement like protein powder personally.
Because you guys are going more toward advising people to get their nutrition through eating whole foods.
Yeah.
Whole nutrition is what I recommend everyone. Outside of that, usually no supplements unless they absolutely need them. Usually for if there's like any kind of causative problem. Outside of that, not really. But usually I try to get all my people just eat the rainbow because not only does the different colors in all the foods have different nutrients, but you're actually getting all that and putting it inside your body, especially if you're getting seasonal foods. It's super important. So no, I will not recommend the hydration. And me personally, I'll have usually a hydration solution if I go out for a bike ride that lasts over an hour. And that's just me kind of replenishing real quick. Outside of that, it's just water for me.
Just water?
Just water.
Do you think that it's true that most people walking around are in some mild state of dehydration pretty often? They just don't realize it?
I think people do not drink enough water for the most part. You would need to drink like 6 of these a day. It's water bottles.
Me personally, I recommend at least half your body weight in ounces per day. Whatever that is, just get it in.
Okay.
So
that's a great hack.
Half your body weight in ounces. Because, I mean, again, we are mostly made of water.
Right.
So we mostly need water.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works, right?
Yeah.
Where do you guys buy your groceries for the most part?
I go to Costco.
I go to Sprouts for my produce, and I used to go to now I do meal prep, so I'm not really shopping a whole lot anymore. But when I was getting my meat, I was going to what was it, Central Market.
Yeah.
Central Market. They have a really good meat section in there. really, really good meat.
Yeah, it is. I like their fish selection pretty well too, because you can get some wild caught in there, which is
so good.
hard to find even at Whole Foods. They don't have much wild caught.
Central Market's the bomb for the meats.
When people just throw around the term macros, but then they're confused because they don't know what ratio they should be on, so they get on a website or they go on Noom or they get an app or their watch is telling them. What's your advice to people who want to eat by the numbers? And can you kind of break down what are macros? What does that term even mean for our viewers and our listeners who might not know?
Macros are going to be your main macronutrients. So you got carbs, protein, fat, and then the other one would be alcohol, but we won't touch on that right now. So depending on what kind of activity you want, what kind of results you want to see, I would say like a lot of athletes might go for like a 60% carb and then 15 fat, 15 protein, 25. But then if you want to do more of like the Atkins or like keto approach, maybe your fat kind of like takes that higher number. But I would say the macros would just be more dependent on what you're personally like output, like what activity you're doing. Because I wouldn't advise or think a lot of athletes are not doing the higher carb approach with the macros, but people that are a bit more sedentary might be doing more of like a higher fat, higher protein, lower carb approach because they don't need that quick energy from the carbohydrate sugars.
Gotcha. What do you use for energy for as a stimulant, or do you not need coffee or a Red
I drink
Bull?
coffee in the morning. Stimulant wise, nothing.
Black or with
I usually
some
have
butter
like
in
a
it, or-
little agave, no butter.
Okay.
What else? And then just for taste wise, I like what is it? It's a chai concentrate that I put in there. That's just for taste. No sugars or anything like that in there. And that's just me personally. That's how I like my coffee.
What about you? What are you doing if you're dragging in the afternoons? You just yawned, so you might need a little bit of
I'm getting
coffee.
oxygen to my brain. That's what I'm doing.
It's the science.
She likes a
what I'm
sneaky
doing.
yawning
Just, like-
because the other thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, that is my excuse. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm just dehydrated. I need to drink more water.
There you go.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, I drink coffee every morning, and then honestly, like, I sip on it throughout the morning. I don't drink it all at once, and I always wait an hour and a half after I wake up to start drinking my coffee.
Can you talk about this? So when you wake up, what's the first thing you do when you wake up?
Water.
Drink a bottle of water.
Because about how much water do people lose while they're asleep? Say it's 6 to 8 hours.
A good amount.
Isn't it like a liter and a half?
it's a
Unless
lot.
you're
Because again, once you're the processes in your body, you're dreaming, that requires energy, right? So that's burning energy. So you're requiring, your body is burning that.
it's
as you're
dropping that
sleeping.
DMT drip back there, and
So
it needs
you
water.
need to be your cells have dried out as you're sleeping. So the first thing that your body needs in the morning is water.
So you guys are up, you're nailing the water and waiting 90 minutes for coffee.
I am waiting 90. I don't know if
I'll
like
usually
wait's
take
exciting.
like a little sip.
You
just
got
to
the
make
coffee maker
sure.
by the bed as the-
not by the bed, but usually just kind of in the kitchen, stroll out in the kitchen, grab my water, chug. I have a liter bottle. I'll chug like half of that. I'll get the coffee going, and then I'll usually go do my carbs.
There you go.
Yeah.
What is your morning routine? Like you're waking up, you're all natural light, no artificial light, and how do you wake up? Alarm clock? Naturally? How do you wake up?
Well, we both wear
Foghorn?
we wear the Whoop device, so
Yeah.
it has a little like vibration on there that will wake you up. But one time it did not work, so I went back to using the phone alarm.
Yeah.
You got to use the sound. You got to use the sound machine on your phone. It's free. It's white noise. Anything you want. Waterfall, rain, whatever. Then you set it to the time you want, and it will fade that out, and it'll fade in birds singing. That's what I do. It's changed because I used to wake up full panic.
Yeah.
The hurricane alarms going off in my ear. This is a life changer.
And so I got
It's
a light alarm for that exact
Those are
reason.
great, too.
And,
Is it a hatch?
It's so good, but
Those are awesome.
I haven't trusted it yet
Yeah.
fully. And so I think that for me to have full trust in this thing, I have to get a different one just because it gives you that natural light.
Yeah.
This one gives off more of like a pink, red, like whatever color you want to kind of give it. And it
Do you remember what the brand is by chance?
I want to say it starts with a V.
I'll text you the one that I have. It's cool, and it has a noisemaker in it too,
Yeah.
and it has night meditations if you want.
Yeah,
Yes.
we go to sleep with 432 hertz on usually.
There
all
you
the
go.
time.
Like those
Really?
binaural beats, yeah.
All right, so the folks who are watching and listening, a couple of things they could do better that they don't realize they're messing up. Other than we've talked about getting your levels checked, checking for food sensitivities, is if you were going to just break down, like if you don't take anything else from the podcast, Brooke, what would you recommend to people? Like drink more water, maybe get a little more salt in there. Is there like just a hack? And then I'll ask you the same thing that people can walk with.
Yeah, if you feel like you are dragging or you're drained, like you probably are. You're probably missing something from your routine. So if you can't figure out what it is by like trying to add more water, trying to add a little bit of salt to your water, trying to go on a walk every day so you can sleep enough every night, maybe you need to go see a specialist to try to see like what your hormone levels are doing.
Go see Blake York, y'all.
Yes.
indeed.
Blake is the man.
Yeah, he's rad. What about you, Luke? What's like just something simple that you would tell
The
somebody?
main thing is for people just to de-stress themselves as much as possible.
Yeah.
Get outside, move outside, smile more. We're
Yeah.
not doing that enough.
Yeah.
Gonna watch more comedy specials.
Indeed.
Whatever
So
it
the
takes.
thing is, like, we don't have the good things coming at us as we used to anymore, as we were young kids. That's all we focused on when we were little kids, only the good. As we go older, you start looking at all the bad things and all the young kids having fun over there. So
Yeah.
we need to get back to having fun. And so just playing a little bit more, getting outside, right?
And how much more fun is life when you're fit
Oh
and you
my
can move
God.
around and you can
just
play with
being
your
able
kids.
to do the stuff that you want to do.
Yeah.
It's life-changing right
Get out
there.
on the lake, do
Yep.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
So if people want to connect with you via email and social, how would they do that?
I am LUQ, email-wise, LUQ at THEKNOWNBODY. That's Luke at theknownbody.com. Instagram is LUQ uncle _ LUQ.
There you are.
Uncle Luke.
Awesome. Brooke, same email and social.
Yeah, it's bsharpfit for my social and bsharpfit@gmail.com for my email.
And if people wanted to reach out to you, would you guys be receptive? I'm pretty sure I know what your answer is going to be, but if they wanted to reach out, like said, hey, I live over here, can you help me find a trainer? You already said that, but if they have nutrition questions, rehab questions, or if they don't even know, hey, maybe massage would help, I'm thinking about getting my shoulder cut again, are these the types of things I could DM you guys about that you'd be down with answering
Yes, of
back?
course.
Absolutely. And if I don't have the brain to answer it, then I'll pass it on to the next person who can.
All about adding value.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you guys both
Yeah,
for your
thanks
time.
for having us.
Great time. Appreciate you. You guys are superstars.
Thank
you.
you.
That was
Appreciate you for
awesome.
having us, dude.
Absolutely. That was great. I hope you took something from that. Crazy tip. Wait 90 minutes in the morning, only drink water, and then start your coffee. It's a pretty awesome hack that Brooke came up with. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I love doing the podcasts. I love to know what you think about them. Drop a comment below. You can always hit me on Instagram or TikTok at Jess from the Northwest. And if you know somebody that you think would make a fascinating conversation, please reach out and connect me. I'm always looking to meet fearless, do-it-yourself people to have them on the podcast to talk about living a life that you want to live, living your dreams. We'll see y'all next week.